from Hyde Park here in Johannesburg. Of course, if you can see us, because it's stage 6 load shedding, so I'm sure there are many of you who will see us only later because you are being switched off. Stage 5, can you believe it? Indeed, I want a few people to tell me, and I've invited a panel to tell me what they make of it all and what we are going to do, and whether or not, in fact, we'll ever be able to come out of this crisis. So, Pela Pina, with the current crisis, you know, is it another 2, 3, 4 years, or is this going to be the way of life? You know, in Nigeria, proper households have a generator. So they use a generator until further notice. So they've given up on the grid. They've given up on government giving them electricity. Are we headed in that direction or not? Jacob Maroga, former CEO of Eskom, as well as president of BBC, that the Elias Monaching are going to talk to me about whether or not we can get out of this crisis. Ted Blom will also join us on Zoom later. But before that, of course, I'm sure you are queened out. Eh? The queen is dead, long live the king. Because outpouring of sympathy, outpouring of condolences, outpouring of love, if you like, from all over the world, heads of states gathering to see the Queen off, at the same time welcoming the new monarchy. Of course, the big question is, do we need a monarchy of that nature anymore? Is it still relevant? What are the things that we can learn? It's not a bad thing to say, now that the Queen has departed, do we continue in a straight line, or do we do something different? Or do we just talk about democracy, and let the queens and kings be ceremonial as possible? Or is it something that can be built on? So those are the questions that a lot of people are asking. I mean, some are shy to ask them, but we shouldn't be. We should be saying, do we learn, for example, from a queen that you can reign for 70 years? I mean, by the time you get to year 70, are there any new ideas for your people or not? When I was thinking about that, I remember when I had an interview with Bantu Holomisa, and somebody commented to what I said, no, Bantu Holomisa's icon has passed away. What do you mean? So I asked Bantu Holomisa, the UDM has been in existence. You've been a president since its founding up to now. I think at that point, the UDM was clocking 20 years. And if you join the UDM 20 years before, you don't know any other president but Bantu Holomisa. Hey! And the general can be very snappy. So he says to me, why don't you ask that from the Queen of England? I just gave up now. I said, when did the Queen of England become a gold standard of democracy? Just get out and give the young people a chance, So certainly that's not what our leaders must take from a Queen of England. Reign for 70 years is an exception, and it must never happen again. We told since I retired 30 years ago, after the son. And the son is already 70. It's a new job at 70. I retired. We need to ask these questions and not just be caught in the euphoria. But the Queen must, of course, indeed rest in peace. I wanted to talk a little bit about the load shedding. Part of the trouble with South Africa is that no one ever takes full responsibility for anything. That's why we have these problems. Because if somebody was fired, even a minister, and you've got two very arrogant ministers in charge of this portfolio, that's why we will never get it right. Pravin Gordhan has even said a boop since whenever it was that they declared, stage 5, Kasatan. Not said anything. We invited him here. We have given up for him to come and account. He doesn't account to anybody. He's just an untouchable prime minister. Kweda Mantashe, even more arrogant. He should be less arrogant because he's actually chairperson of a ruling party under whose watch all of this crisis is happening. Until there's political responsibility somewhere, that somebody must get fired, man, for these things. I'm telling you, our children will be debating load shedding. They'll be debating it. They'll debate it until the cows come home. Why is it that the ANC cannot hold a Pravin Gordhan to account? To say the grid is collapsing. I don't know whether they're waiting first for it to be a total blackout before they can actually say, but so and so, you see your political portfolio, this energy thing. This Eskom is under your watch and is failing. Of course, I'm going to ask my panel to tell me whether they think that the president's plan, that was announced with big fanfare, with a State of a Nation type address, has done anything. It's been weeks now. Has it done anything? We set up, and we are very good at this as South Africa. We like to set up committees. Set up a committee for that. When you say, no, there's a problem in this, let's just give them a task team. And when everything fails, you say, no, why don't we call it something else? Why don't we call it district development model? Something, just call it something else, so that there must be an impression that something is happening or something is about to happen. That's what's happening with this thing. There's been in fact, ironically, a task team led by President Ramaphosa. I think they call it the war room. If you want to really irritate me, just say war room. Nobody even knows what this thing is. These people who have never been in a war and so on, but they like to say war room. When there's a problem, say, hey, let's set up a war room. But take a listen at how confident the president was when addressing the issue of load shedding. Not so long ago. Take a listen.
Eskom is being turned around, and we all know the challenges that Eskom faces. We've never hidden them, and indeed, it so happens that many other countries have a similar situation like ours, where their utilities either have old-aged generators or power stations that now have to be revamped, that have to be modernized. We are already ahead of the curve because we are already building power stations, and one of them has already gone live, a unit thereof has already gone live, and in another 18 months to 2 years, you will forget that the challenges that we had with relation to power or energy and Eskom ever existed. Be patient, this problem is going to be resolved.
Yeah, no, I'm very patient, and unfortunately we can't forget because we get reminded every time. This time we are reminded 4 or 5 times a day without electricity, so we can't forget, unfortunately. But we have been patient, but I'm sure, speaking on behalf of many, many people, small businesses who have to switch off, people who have to be stuck in traffic for double or triple the time that they usually would be, that our patience is running out. Our patience is really running out on this load shedding. So I've called the experts, and I hope they will give me a sense of what can be done. I want us to focus on those solutions here after. Okay, now let's take a break now, and then we'll talk to our panel now about the stage 6 load shedding. And I'm told we are down to 5. Same difference, really. But let's take a break now. It's Part to Truth with me on JJ Tabane. Energy issues, load shedding, and so on my mind tonight, and our panel is going to help me. Welcome, Mr. Jim. Dade Maroga, welcome. Dade Elias Mona, welcome. Let's start with you, Dade Jim. I want to focus on solutions. Please, we've analyzed to death. We know what the problems are, right? If you were to advise the board of Eskom and the government tonight, how would you roll back what is the current crisis of load shedding right now?
JJ, I think that as a union we've made a couple of calls. Yeah. It's very difficult to answer your question. We have called for the board to be dismissed. We have called for the entire management to be dismissed. Oh, no. But you say I must ask if I were to advise the board, I would say fire Andre and the whole management team and replace him with people with knowledge about generation. The people who are there are dark like.
But surely Eskom doesn't rely on the board per se to do the technical things of making sure that the lights are on, isn't it? They say Eskom hires 40,000 people, right? At the top layer, I'm sure must be the management team. I'm sure requires a hotel to have a meeting because I'm sure there's over 100 of them.
Just a couple of weeks ago, we have not even finished a month.
Yeah.
Andre invited us to Eskom.
Yeah.
and all unions were there. We arrived on time.
Yeah.
He made us to wait for an hour.
Yeah.
And we prepared with submissions to deal with load shedding.
Okay.
And for that hour, we read what he was to present to us as a presentation.
Okay.
We realized it was not dealing with the crisis.
Yeah.
And we took up a fight with him to say, Andre, we're here.
Yeah.
We want to discuss with you how do we end load shedding.
Yeah.
And we have detailed information for him that the issue here is quality maintenance of power stations. Every maintenance that is being done at Eskom, it does not finish 9 months. It's out back again for maintenance. And we're saying we are here as trade unions, use us. Let's share information with you.
So
he refused to
listen.
To see that debate as a strategic debate.
Yeah.
You want us to discuss beyond power stations that you want to close and talk about gardens, green stuff. We live in a couple of different worlds.
Yeah.
When in fact, when this load shedding hits, factories, small, medium-sized companies cannot be able to
So there's no vision in terms of Eskom and what they are trying to do, because what you are saying is not something they have disagreed with. I think they have agreed that, in fact, they need more budget for maintenance, isn't it? And part of what the president said when he called us all together to say this is how it's going to resolve the problem, he spent a bit of time on maintenance and the fact that it must be regular, it must be funded, right? So if you bring a new management, what are they going to do differently?
I think, JJ, they would have to drive quality maintenance of power station as an attitude of mind and a way of life. Yeah. Secondly, I think that one thing which whenever the president, when this crisis hit and when the president come back as he was going to land or is going to land back, it has always been a panacea to add more IPPs into the grid. This load shedding, from where we're sitting, we think that it is self-generated to continue to load more IPPs into the grid. Unfortunately, you can't only rely on the sun and
sophisticated really to come up with a big conspiracy that let's sit and make the grid collapse. I find it difficult to believe that. Why don't you just conclude it as incompetence? Why do you say they sit in a corner and say if we do this, then we can open a path for IPPs? IPPs, even if you took all of them, they won't be really half of the generation. I can give you experiences of when this load shedding, the president is outside the country, he comes back, Gwedo Mandashe must tamper with the policy, they don't follow any consultation rule that NERS are supposed to follow. Even now, I can tell you, there will be more IPPs to be added into the grid. And the false theory that is being sent is that we need add more capacity. We have got enough capacity that is in the grid. What we need is maintenance, and it must be quality maintenance. Dr. Maroga, you agree with that? You have been at the helm of Eskom. I don't think we had this disaster when you were there, so you can speak freely about how you did it and whether what you did can be replicated now to get us back to some kind of normalcy.
Look, I think there are three levels of issues. The one is operational. Right? At the moment, we have a fleet that is constantly breaking down. We have a situation where on average, 15 to 16,000 megawatts out of a capacity of 46,000 is unavailable because of breakdowns. That's an operational crisis. That must be dealt with, and maintenance and getting everybody along to do that quality maintenance to get the performance to be where it should be the first.
But you agree that quest for maintenance or the need for maintenance now is a legacy issue, that it was neglected over years and corners were cut? Is that a correct thing to say?
It's not. When you see, things like maintenance and maintenance expenditure, you can actually prove. You can go into the annual report every year and say how much maintenance was spent, was in an audited figure, how many megawatts were taken out. You can verify that. So it has been done. Right? Now, at the moment, it's not been done correctly, or it's not been done in a quality way. I think Jan Oberholz is saying they're doing maintenance, but things break down immediately after. So that's the thing that must be looked at. What are the problems there? Is it skills? Is it money? Is it suppliers? That at an operational level must be sorted out. Because we've got enough capacity in South Africa, more than enough to cover the demand. The problem is performance of the current fleet. And that's
including the new fleet that you guys spend billions on building, right? Now, would you say then, therefore, the critical issue is that there was, if you like, a design faults? There was something about that made the amount spent on these things balloon out of control, right? And of course, if the design was faulty from the start, the maintenance will automatically be faulty or be a misfit, isn't it?
Not really. I think the design faults have been dealt with.
Yeah.
They were late delivery of the projects.
Yeah.
And there's been explanation, and those things happen when you have across the world.
Yeah.
When you have large-scale industrial plants, you run the risk that they may be late.
Yeah.
And it happens with the European Kusile. But that is not necessarily the excuse of the current problem.
What is the excuse? What
the
is the excuse now, in your view?
Is performance of the current fleet.
Yeah.
And I think those are the things that must...
Are you saying the engineers there are getting it wrong to improve the performance of this fleet?
Look, I don't know the details, because many excuses have been given. And in fact, one of the problems with operations of Eskom now is that the current management have become analysts and reporters as opposed to problem solvers. When they have a press conference, what you hear is they're analyzing something that seems to be outside of their sphere of influence.
Yeah.
Sabotage, lack of maintenance, lack of funds, lack of skills. All of those things seems to be outside.
Yeah.
They're not taking ownership. So as an executive, you must take ownership.
Yeah.
Whether those problems exist or not is neither here nor there, but you're there to solve.
You've observed Andre now for 18 months,
yes,
or whatever time he's been there.
Yes.
He's already exceeded the time that he said he was going to fix this thing. One sentence of assessment of his tenure, what will it be?
Disaster. I mean, it's clear. Stage 6 load shedding. You look over the past 3 years, we have had more load shedding than we ever have in the history of Eskom. So, disaster. Yeah. But is he the only guy who's supposed to carry the can?
No.
I don't think so.
Is there a mitigating factor? I'll come to I think we should go to, okay, we'll go to Ted Blom after this. But is there any mitigating factor? I know that you guys have called for Andre to be fired and so on. You still haven't answered me why in the first place you beat that drum when he was appointed, instead of opposing that. But we'll pack that for tonight. Is there any mitigating factor here? Right? In other words, would we just change the jockey now and think things are going to be better? Is there a quick fix to this thing? If you fire the board tomorrow, like Irvin Jimmy is suggesting, bring a new CEO and so on, we did that 18 months ago, and we were told, no, in 18 months there'll be no load shedding. Here we are.
I think, Prof, there are a number of areas and issues that to date, both the leadership of Eskom and even our government are not addressing.
Yeah.
In any organization, everything starts with leadership. And we have raised that point consistently without any fear or favor of anyone, that the current leadership of Eskom, led by Andre, they don't have any clue. They don't have any competency to run that energy company. They don't have the competency to run Eskom. Secondly, to answer your question, I mean, when Andre was appointed, yes, we supported his appointment. And the reason why we supported...
then we must blame you then.
No, I'm saying...
you didn't have foresight.
No, I'm saying the reason why we supported, we basically said we need them to give this man a chance.
Yeah.
To our surprise, a few months down the road, we then realized this man is not the right... I mean, it's like a coach in any football club or in any organization. If a leader supposed then to proceed and implement certain programs, whether it's a vision or the implementation, you basically then change tune to say, this is not the right thing to do.
Yeah.
We did give him the chance to prove himself, and I'm saying he failed dismally. Secondly, for the past 2 years or even more, we have raised a number of issues, including engaging the presidency and even various ministers on the energy problem. And the problem, again, is not around the independent power producers, as Ivan mentioned. Because the energy mix is one aspect that can be debated down the road. But the key question is then to deal with the base load. The base load is around your three things. It's basically centered around three things. Centered around your coal power stations. around the your gas, and thirdly, your nuclear. Those are three issues that gives you a guaranteed energy in any given time. And again,
but is that not in the resource plan, an integrated resource plan anyway?
I'm saying, I mean, the point, I guess, that the current leadership, they've missed the point, is that they don't want to deal with the maintenance of that fleet. Now, they think that by addressing the IPP, it will automatically then address the load shedding and blackouts. And I'm saying the two, they're not the same.
All right, just park there. I want to bring in Ted Blom after the break to weigh in on this technical discussion, to say, because I want to move you all to solutions now, right? To say it must be fired, I'm sure it's not our decision, but the decision of let's say they're not fired, they're there. You know, what can we do to fix the situation? Let's take a break now. Okay, let's take a listen to what the chairperson of Eskom had to say on this show, on this question of the leadership of Eskom.
I appointed Andre to succeed, not to fail. That's not, if he fails, I fail too. So that's how I see my role. It is to assist him together with my colleagues on the board. And that's how we run the board.
Okay, Ted, please weigh in. Ted Blom, welcome. Please weigh in. I'm trying to deal with solutions, not a big analysis. What should be done? What are the 2 or 3 big things, right, that Andre de Reyters and his team at Eskom should do, other than resign? Right, resign, we've already established. You want him to resign, fine. He's probably not going to resign now. He's the longest serving CEO there in recent times, so he's probably going to stick it out like the Queen of England. So tell me, Ted.
Okay, so I mean, I think the one thing that needs to be sorted out within Eskom is they need to stop the political interference. When Mr. de Reyters took the job, his first comments was, after about 3 or 4 weeks of settling in, his first comments were he was going to refurbish the coal fleet, he was going to call in the OEM manufacturers, the original equipment manufacturers, and they were going to refurbish the equipment back to spec. And where necessary, they're going to do the half-life refurbishment as well. So that's like reconditioning your car engine. It should be as good as new after that. He went further, which I didn't believe, and I laughed at that. But he said he was going to get a warranty from those suppliers. And I know, as far as I know, that no manufacturer is going to give you a warranty on abused equipment. So, but anyway, the good idea was to refurbish the stuff. Then after about a year, he changed his mind and he said, no, he's no longer going to invest in the dilapidated old coal equipment. He's now going to focus on renewables. And then he cut the maintenance budgets on the coal fleet. As far as my information is concerned, a year up to 75% budget cuts and very many delays, which came from Oberholzer himself. And now in the last week or two, when he's heard that renewables can't do peak power, he said, no, but maybe they should do gas. And I see that in the announcement of today, they're talking about big diesel generators that are coming into the fleet as emergency power. So
tell me, what must they do? If they hired you tomorrow and said you are the advisor.
Jumping around. You must stop jumping around. You can't be a leader of 44,000 people and change your tune and your strategy every couple of months. That's not the way organizations work. And all your suppliers also lose confidence if you change your mind every time. What they need to do is they need to create headspace. Mr. Maroga is 100% correct. They have got 52 gigawatts of capacity. On a good day, they only need about 30 gigawatts of capacity, and the odd day in winter, maybe up to 33, 34 gigawatts. So even on a bad day, they should have 18 gigawatts of spare capacity on their fleet. On paper, they've got it. It's available. It should be available, and they must make sure that it's available by doing proper maintenance. And Mr. Maroga is correct in saying they haven't done that.
Are you agreeable that the maintenance is of poor quality? And is the maintenance issue the issue that is dogging them and creating this chaos now?
Absolutely. I've got a data sheet for Majuba. One of the mills broke down 197 times in June. 197 times, of which the gearbox broke down 5 times in June. That's very clearly indicative that there's a major, major problem with the quality of maintenance. Yeah. And then I go a little bit deeper. I'm told there are no spare parts. When they need parts, they go to the local hardware store and buy parts, nuts and bolts and stuff like that. Now, you can't fix a 50-ton truck with motorcycle parts. It doesn't work. And any engineer will be able to confirm that.
Okay, Ted. Can I come to you? Because it looks like there's agreement that there's an issue about maintenance, right? How do you fix that? What was your proposal to him, to Andre, when you met with the unions? Were you just talking in general terms, or you had specific things to say? Andre, on maintenance, we think you should do 1, 2, 3.
Now, JJ, our ideas becomes material force only when they are believed by the people and they are turned into proper plans and they are executed. We came there and we will still go. There's the meeting that is being rescheduled, looking for dates, but we were shocked that the whole leadership was not seeing this issue as a strategic issue. They wanted us,
issue of maintenance.
Yes, they wanted us to discuss just transition, green, and so forth. And when other countries that are telling us not to touch coal and so forth, their base load that Elias is talking about is on coal, is on nuclear. If you run Eskom, at least it's a basic thing you must understand. Yeah. The issue of availability factor is your issue that you watch like your cash flow running a business. Yeah. And that's the issue. And we were saying there we were saying to Andre, we got our shop steward here. NUM says we brought our shop stewards here. Yeah. Solidarity.
Why do you think they don't do that? Is it poor capacity internally to arrive at your same conclusion?
No,
you don't work there full time.
Let me tell you, JJ, there's this thing that says a new broom sweep clean. Yeah. This whole thing of state capture has made people to be sick in their heads. And this is also very strange that during state capture, the leadership of Brian, Gogo, and so forth, we dealt with the question of load shedding. They fixed it. And in terms of banning diesel, when I looked at the numbers, they've banned around 25 million. I checked Andre and them, how much have they banned? 7 billion on diesel. Meaning that those power stations are not delivering energy. Basically, there's a huge wastage, and there's nobody who's talking about that. Yeah. In fact, one of the things I've raised in the article I wrote, I'm asking the question, if from 2018 to 2022, load shedding costed about 500 billion to the economy, why there's nobody who's concerned about that? Yeah. Why is not saying that as
answer that question, because why is it that there's no political accountability, or is it stretching it too far to skip the board and go to the minister and say, but you are also responsible?
Oh, the minister is sleeping. Yeah? I'm from Dinel. Yeah. 663 workers, 663 workers must lose their jobs. And the management of Dinel is telling us that, no, we had an order book that we couldn't service. Yeah. We just didn't have the cash flow to service, and it is workers now, 663 workers must lose their job. You know what happened, and they say, hey. So we have been leaderless, to say the least.
Leaderless. Maroga, on the way forward, the maintenance thing, I think you have exhausted it. What else can be fixed? Other than the straightforward issue of maintenance, there seems to be a contestation there.
Look, the posture of management is important to an organization. Yeah. Now, this thing of maintenance is also about posture. Yeah. The posture of the board and management seems to be saying, coal is a dying entity. Yeah. We are looking to the future which is renewable. Yeah. So for me, is that I think the management of Eskom need to be told that your focus is this coal plant that you're running. Yeah. And in fact, they must actually take out the issues of renewables to somewhere else.
So they should be doing both, because failure to do both in the past has led us here, because there was at some point a management of Eskom that said to the government at that point, we are going to run out of energy. We're going to run out of plants.
Now, the issue is this.
Yeah.
There is a posture within some Eskom board members that renewables is a solution to the current problem.
Yeah.
Now, that technically is not correct.
Is it not part of the solution?
No, it is not part of the current solution. It is part of the future mix of energy, where you begin to bring other renewables to deal with the issues of emission. But it's not about fixing the current problems of 50% availability.
So are you saying the board is not focusing on the ball right now? They're focusing too much on the future.
In fact, they are writing off what is currently happening. They're almost saying what is happening with coal is not even our problem. What we want to concern ourselves with is renewable energy, because that's the future solution. And that's a wrong attitude.
Any board surely has to look at management of risk, right? They can't just look at what's happening today and say, let's fix it now. They have to look at management of risk to say, in 10 years' time, what is it that you are doing now? How will it affect that future, isn't it? Why do you think that they are failing to strike that balance? I mean, these are honorable people in the board.
Part of them is just technical know-how. People have promised them that renewables is going to solve the problem. And those are mostly paid lobbyists who got no understanding or no interest. Because for the next, I guess, for the next 20, 30 years, we will still have a very big coal fleet. And we're going to have to take care of it until we've got other technologies that will begin to take up new capacity. For me, that's posture, that mindset. For instance, the CEO was asked, what would be the solution for load shedding? He says, I'm giving away land in Mpumalanga for renewables as a solution to load shedding. That's the wrong answer. Because in fact, even that giving of land is not giving a land for capacity that is going to control. It's going to be capacity that is going to be contracted to private players with their private customers. Now, how is that going to help your load shedding? So that posture, that mindset of we are looking to the future, when you are not dealing with the current issue. Plant, that you need to focus on.
Let me bring in Ted. Ted, do you agree that the introduction of renewables as a solution is wrong? Or would you argue that you need a balance between the two? In other words, the current maintenance of the coal fleet and a planting of a seed of a future so that you've got an energy mix.
So any organization, if you go to IBM or any of these things, if you do some business school studies, they will tell you that when you look at the future, it should not be part of your core operations. Your core operations, as all three gentlemen have alluded to, need to be the core focus of your current management team. If you want to do new developments, you do what IBM did, and they called it the Skunk Works. They created a campus offsite, and they said, you, the Skunk Works, you sort out the issues about reliability and storage and all those things. And when you're ready, when you've solved all those problems, you come and talk to us. But in the meantime, we focus on today, because if we don't focus on today, we'll be dead by tomorrow. Now, just to allude to a further point, I sat in on the NUMSA hearings today. And again, Eskom is focusing only on the future. The money that they're getting in from the court cases, etc., has all been allocated to distribution and transmission. And generation is getting zero, absolutely zero of that money. And that tells me that Eskom is written off the coal fleet.
I'm not sure whether I agree with the fact that they're only focusing on the future. Because then what operation are they running? You know, what's your view then, Elias?
Prof, I think there is a fundamental problem here. The fundamental problem that you're not addressing is the base load. And that's the reason why, I mean, the colleagues from the panel, they're basically saying the current leadership of Eskom, they're talking about the future. And that future is not going to address the current problems that you are facing on the electricity crisis, which is your base load. And that's the point that I'm saying. Any solution that we need them to address load shedding, blackouts, and any other aspect is around addressing your base load in those three areas: the gas, the nuclear, and the coal power stations. And if we don't do any maintenance, you'll continue to have the current problems, because technically, we are not addressing the issue. I mean, it's like when somebody is sick, if you go to a doctor says, you are suffering from headache, but he give you medication for a running stomach. So he's not addressing this thing. And I'm saying if one...
So they're diagnosing the parent problem wrongly. So why is that so? They've got all these engineers who work for them.
No. I'm saying to you, part of the fundamental problem that we cannot run away from is the leadership.
Yeah.
And I can tell you for free that the current management, they are arrogant to the core. Because if you then talk to them around the problems, they don't want to address these issues. Thirdly, we had a meeting. I'm saying we had a meeting with the presidency, including even some of the ministers, with the intention of addressing the current problems.
Did that produce anything?
Not the IPP. And one of the critical points that we raised
but did that meeting produce anything?
I'm saying even at that meeting, Prof, we basically said wind, solar, and storage is dependent on weather. You cannot then justify or provide electricity every day because it's dependent on something else that you don't have a control over. Nuclear, gas, and coal, you have a control over that thing because you can then day in, day out deal with a security of electricity out there to your client. The other part of the problem is that you cannot even talk about the recovery and the reconstruction of the economy in the absence of electricity that is secured. Now, we are forever losing employment, we are forever losing opportunities, because in any given day, electricity is only for 3 hours.
Are you saying that what the president announced previously, it's about a few weeks now, right, has not moved the needle in as far as dealing with the energy crisis is concerned? Is there anything from there that gave you hope that there seems to be a plan? That Maroga, I'm sure you analyzed that plan.
Yes, I think one, in fact, the first solution in that plan is to fix Eskom.
Yeah.
And in fact, Minister Pravin went even further when he elaborated after talking to Eskom to say they've identified the top 6 power stations, coal power stations in Eskom, as the focus to bring the availability up. But what we have not seen is a follow-up. Where is the follow-up?
Of that promise?
Of that promise. Yes, there is renewables that must come. In fact, I'm not saying renewables mustn't come, but I'm saying the current crisis, the current crisis with the current fleet. Renewables as a supplementary is important into the future plans. The Eskom CEO, in my view, and Eskom management should be focused on what they have on the table.
If people move away from the grid and switch to some of the renewables like solar, etc., would that, in your view, remove the pressure or at least release some pressure from the grid to allow for maintenance to happen? Because obviously, whatever you can call it, whether it's quality maintenance or otherwise, there must be a gap that you create in the grid to breathe in order for maintenance to happen, isn't it?
Don't have electricity because wind is dependent on weather. Solar is dependent on the sun. If you don't have the sun for a week,
sure.
So they're not going.
There are lots of days where there's a sun. So I'm saying, wouldn't that help?
No, it's not.
To lessen?
No, it's not, because we are addressing a wrong solution. I mean, your wind and solar and the battery storage, on average, you store something for 4 hours, not more than that. Now, even if you have the sun for the whole week and for the next coming 2 weeks, you don't have the sun, you are not going to store anything because we have nothing.
Now, it looks like you are saying that the solar and other these are useless.
No.
But first, I think JJ is very unfair to the board. One of the things, in my frank brutality, being frustrated, and I thought they wouldn't feel that I'm insulting them, I actually said we have a board of IPPs. We need a board of Eskom. That's the level of prioritization.
Really? Is that the case?
By management. I'm telling you. In fact, there's an IPP office that runs what should be our energy mix. One thing that we shouldn't be interpreted as people who are saying maintain power stations as dinosaurs that do not believe that our country, we do believe that there must be a transition from fossil fuels to renewables. But we need to be allowed to have a discussion on the proper energy mix for our country, and that must happen at a cost and at a pace the country can afford.
We'll take that up after the break. We're talking energy tonight and solutions. So focusing on solutions. I'm going to ask my guest when we come back to just round it off to me to say, if Andre de Ruyter was listening, what should he hear tonight to implement tomorrow? Let's take a break. Part to truth, we're rounding off the conversation about energy. If you can see us, because you probably are in the dark, but when you do get to see us, we are now hoping that under the radar is not load shed. So what do we say to him? Ted, you're always, I always ask you this question, why is it that when load shedding comes, all of you as experts come out of the woodworks with a lot of advice? Does it mean that Eskom has shut you outside and you can't get your advice? So that's your chance to give them advice from outside anyway. What would you tell them now?
Well, I think the first thing is he must stick to his original plan, and pledge. He must fix up the fleet and get the maintenance sorted out properly, and give it proper budgets, and stop boasting about stupid things like early repayment of debt. And then don't alienate your workers. Because at the end of the day, if your workers are alienated, you're not going to have an organization to run.
So it's a leadership question. It seems like it's a leadership style plus leadership question. But the solution seems to be agreed, because he always talks about maintenance and improving it. He always gives an excuse of maintenance for load shedding and so on. So would you say that the board has it wrong and maybe it needs to be changed in order for new direction to come into Eskom?
Absolutely. They will stick to the basics, as Mr. Maroga said. If you haven't, and the BBC, if you don't stick to your basics, if you take your eye off the ball, you're going to fall very hard. And that's exactly what's happened to Eskom. They've fallen very, very hard. And the people like Mr. Maroga and other old colleagues, they know what the good Eskom looked like. They were part of the winning team that won that award in 2001. Yeah. The new team that they've jetted in there, they don't know what good looks like. That's why they're floundering all over the show.
Interesting to hear, but there is a crisis management team of some sort, in another war room type thing that's been set up in the presidency led by the DG. Is the door there closed for all of you to go there and put these good proposals on the table?
Prof, you know, days are gone for dilly-dallying on Eskom.
Yeah.
The leadership issues, if the president indeed is serious in addressing these issues, he must have the will.
Yeah.
And the
he must fire the current board.
And fire Andrea and the board. Because all of them, I mean, they're not competent. Because I'm saying it starts with leadership. Yeah. Any organization starts with leadership. That is a solution that we have suggested and proposed. Secondly, they need for them to remain focus, not the current leadership. You need a new leadership that must then focus on addressing the base load. The third part, once...
But are you saying the current leadership is so hopeless that it can be guided if you brought a set of experts around the table to advise the president, to advise this energy?
Even some of the people that are advising, I'm saying even the people that are advising the president, they don't even have a clue on the problems that we are faced with. You'll recall that a few months ago, we're given a plethora of excuses.
Yeah.
If it's not
your solution to fire people seems to fall on deaf ears. That's my problem. That's why I want you to give something practical. You as a predecessor of Andre.
Yeah. Look,
if this is all he saw on the show, what would you say to him to do?
Look, not him, because there are many issues that hamper any CEO that is going to solve the problem.
Yeah.
I think my message will be to the president.
Yeah.
He must collapse all these structures that are running around trying to micromanage Eskom.
Yeah.
Create a superstructure. We used to have what is called the Eskom Council.
Yeah.
So in there you had industry experts.
Yeah.
And you had the very strong people.
Yeah, I see Ted Blom is agreeing with you.
Who can then guide
the
management. Then collapse these other structures.
Yeah.
For the next 5 to 10 years.
Yeah.
Give that structure to sort this thing out.
Yeah.
No political interference. They've got single mandate, stabilize the energy system.
Yeah. But that sounds like what the board was told to do 3 years ago.
No, but the things the board has to go to DME, they must go to DPE, they must go back to the National Treasury, they must go fight in courts with NESA. All of those things are just distracting from solving the problem. Collapse all of these things, create a super.
So you're saying to me the governance is wrong. The governance of this whole thing
is fractured.
Is wrong. It must be centralized somewhere where there can be proper decision making.
Exactly.
Irvin, will you agree with that?
I would fully agree with that, but I would also say that workers, just like they are the producers of wealth in every country, Eskom workers know how to fix Eskom.
So
give those workers a platform to tell you, and you must open your ears to tell you how to drive that maintenance. Listen to what
they be allowed
they
to
No, they are not
do
allowed.
That. They're not allowed. They must keep quiet.
They must just be walking around.
But such a structure must include a stakeholder like the unions. They used to have, people like Mantashe used to sit in the Eskom Council as representative of labor. So you need to bring all the stakeholders.
He has forgotten that clearly. He has forgotten that none of you are talking about political accountability. Does that not matter? Because part of the problem is if you say appoint a new council, it must still go to some minister who will decide. And if that minister has shown incompetence along with this board, then why is it looks like we are not touching that studio?
No, I think that we did. We would have experienced both ministries. There is the one that where Eskom is being managed, and there's DMRE that is basically defending that coal is still got a role to play. And what we're seeing is that message that says coal still got a role to play, it's marginalization, it's pushback, and that pushback you see on how quality maintenance of power stations is not being prioritized. So I think that this time the president, I hope, is not just flying back and run from US on other important trips. I hope this time he will do genuine, not factional listening. He will do a genuine thing, call all unions.
Are you dismissing his plan? And would it be fair to say we have not given his plan time to mature in order to create a new reality?
There's no plan for fixing us.
No, the one that he called the whole nation and made a record.
In fact, I tell Andre, I think the president announced the plan on the weekend. On Tuesday, we were being workshopped by Andre on green. There was no plan to deal with Lucia. And I said, you are lying to the nation. You are lying to the president. In fact, the president, to be honest, there are professors, that are misleading the president.
All right, we're going to have to leave it there. Thank you, gentlemen. I hope that you will find a platform and a space to make these inputs to the relevant ears. I hope that Andre the Raider was listening, and maybe it's time he comes back to the show to come and tell us what on earth is going on. Okay, we'll take you to 11 o'clock with News Night. But until we talk frankly again, may God bless you.